Welcome back to the deep dive. We're continuing our exploration into the whole Jeffrey Epstein situation. And today we're focusing on Ghislaine Maxwell, a really pivotal figure.
Absolutely. Her role, her trial, her conviction,
Hmm.
it all peels back so many layers of this disturbing story.
Right. So we've looked at the sources, and today we want to give you the clearest picture we can of Maxwell's connection to Epstein. What happened at her trial, the evidence, the conviction.
And crucially, how her case sort of fits into that bigger, darker network we've been discussing.
Yeah.
Cut through the noise, basically.
Exactly. Just the facts, the insights from the sources. So let's start there. What was Ghislaine Maxwell's role in Epstein's operations, according to what we found?
Well, it seems pretty clear she was deeply involved, deeply entrenched. The sources even point to her being called a potential co-conspirator in Epstein's original non-prosecution deal down in Florida.
A potential co-conspirator. That's
Yeah.
that's significant language, isn't it? Especially in a legal document like that non-prosecution agreement.
It really is. It suggests, much more than just being, say, a girlfriend or an associate.
Yeah.
The sources describe her as working directly under Epstein.
Under him.
Yeah. And critically, being taught by him how to recruit females for sex.
So taught how to recruit. That points to a really active operational kind of role, not just someone who happened to be there.
Precisely. It moves beyond just association into, like, direct participation in the alleged mechanics of it all.
And what did Maxwell herself say about what she did for Epstein? Did she acknowledge any of this?
Well, her version was different. She described her job as more about managing his properties, hiring staff across his, 6 homes?
Right, the mansions.
Yeah, including hiring people to give massages.
Yeah.
But, and this is really important, in her deposition, that sworn testimony before trial, she strongly denied key things.
Okay, what did she deny specifically?
She categorically denied hiring anyone underage, anyone under 18, or inviting minors to his homes. She denied, being involved in massages with Virginia Roberts and Epstein, denied any sexual contact with Joanna Sjoberg, who later testified.
So she painted it as a completely normal job, just managing staff for a wealthy man?
It's essentially, yes,
Right.
a normal job handling hiring. That was her framing.
Okay, so you have these starkly contrasting pictures, the alleged operational role versus her denials.
Yeah.
How did the prosecution then build its case for the trial? What evidence did they bring forward?
Well, they presented a case alleging her active, systematic participation. And it was successful. She was convicted on multiple counts, serious ones.
Like what specifically?
Conspiracy to transport minors for criminal sexual activity, the actual transportation of a minor for that purpose, and sex trafficking of a minor.
Those are incredibly serious charges.
They are. And the sentences reflected that. She got concurrent sentences, 60 months, 120 months, and 240 months. That's 20 years on the top count, plus a $750,000 fine.
20 years. Wow. Okay, so the conviction was secured. A lot of that must have rested on witness testimony, right? Who were the key people who testified against her?
Absolutely. Witness testimony was crucial. One of the really powerful witnesses was Johanna Sjoberg. She was, I think, 21, a college student when this happened.
And what was so striking about her testimony?
She testified that it was Maxwell herself who recruited and hired her, not Epstein.
Maxwell
Directly, under the guise of being a personal assistant, but the job was to give sexual massages. Sjoberg even recounted Maxwell, sort of implying she needed help pleasing Epstein.
Saying what, exactly?
Something like she didn't have the time or desire to please him as much as he needs, and that's why, there were other girls around.
That is incredibly direct. It paints Maxwell as not just enabling, but actively orchestrating things. Did Sjoberg mention anyone else? Any well-known names?
She did. There was this incident involving a photo taken at Epstein's place. She said Prince Andrew, Virginia Trufer, who you might know as Virginia Roberts and Maxwell, were there. Yeah. Sjoberg testified she sat on his lap, and he put his hand on her breast. She also mentioned this strange detail about a puppet.
A puppet?
A puppet of Prince Andrew, apparently from some BBC show. She said it was on Virginia's lap in the photo, with his hand on Virginia's breast, described as some kind of joke.
That's bizarre and disturbing. Okay, so that's powerful personal testimony. What about other kinds of evidence? Maybe from staff who worked in the houses?
Yes, definitely. During the Epstein investigation, household staff were deposed. Alfredo Rodriguez, who was a household manager for Epstein for about a year, 2004-2005.
What did he say?
He testified that Maxwell kept a list of local girls giving massages right there at her desk. and that she had nude photos of girls on her computer.
Nude photos on her work computer.
According to Rodriguez, yes.
Yeah.
He also backed up the idea that Maxwell was involved in recruiting girls for sex, disguised as massages. And he added something else quite chilling.
What was that?
He said Maxwell later told him in what he described as a threatening way, basically not to talk about it, not to contact her.
Suggesting an attempt to silence him.
That's certainly the implication, yeah.
Were there other staff members with similar stories?
Yes. Juan Alessi. He worked for Epstein for a long time, 11 years, house manager, driver, maintenance.
11 years. He must have seen a lot.
He testified that typically 3 different young girls would come for massages each day, 3 a day.
Wow.
And he also described finding things after the massages, especially towards the end of his time there, having to watch a vibrator and a, quote, long rubber penis from the sink and remake the bed. Details like that really painted a picture of the routine.
Just graphic day-to-day details. And Virginia Giuffre's allegations, Jane Doe, #3 in some documents, they were also part of this landscape, right? Even if maybe not directly part of Maxwell's trial.
Right. Her allegations are a major part of the whole Epstein story. She alleged encounters with Alan Dershowitz, for instance, in New Mexico and on Epstein's Island.
And Dershowitz's response?
He has vehemently denied it, publicly, in legal declarations.
Yeah.
Providing alibis, naming witnesses he says can prove he wasn't there. So that's a contested part of the narrative.
Okay. And there was another victim mentioned, Mrs. Arrows, referencing a recruiter?
Correct. She was just 15.
Yeah.
Testified she was manipulated by this recruiter figure. It started as massages, but escalated to sexual acts, even rape.
How was she manipulated?
The recruiter apparently emphasized Epstein's beautiful home, the money she could make, saying it would benefit her. Classic grooming tactics, really. And Jane Doe #4 also testified about being asked by Epstein directly over the phone to come give massages that turned sexual. She was 16.
So multiple accounts echoing similar patterns of recruitment and abuse involving minors.
Yes, a consistent pattern across different victims' accounts.
Okay. Faced with all of this, the staff testimony, the victim accounts, how did Ghislaine Maxwell's defense respond during the trial? What was their strategy?
Their core strategy was essentially denial and discrediting the accusers. They consistently framed the allegations as fictitious lies and stories, basically made up for attention or money.
Just outright fabrications.
That was the argument. Maxwell maintained her innocence completely, denied participating in sexual acts, denied procuring minors. Her lawyers also specifically targeted Virginia Giuffre's claims, pointing to things like emails suggesting a reporter might have fed names like Dershowitz to Giuffre for a book pitch, trying to undermine her credibility.
Did they try to use that old non-prosecution agreement Epstein had, the one that mentioned her as a potential co-conspirator? Did they argue that Giuffre should protect her?
They absolutely did. That was a major part of her appeal after the conviction. They argued that the deal Epstein made with the prosecutors in Florida should have prevented the prosecutors in New York from charging her at all.
And how did that turn out?
The appeals court, the Second Circuit, shut that down. They basically said, look, a plea agreement usually only binds the specific prosecutor's office that made it, unless it explicitly says otherwise. And Epstein's Florida deal didn't explicitly protect Maxwell from prosecution elsewhere, like New York.
So that argument failed. What else did they appeal on?
They also challenged some of the testimony itself. They argued that allowing testimony about alleged abuse that happened in New Mexico, which maybe wasn't explicitly in the original charges, unfairly broadened the case against her, what lawyers call a constructive amendment or prejudicial variance.
Meaning the jury might have convicted her based on something she wasn't originally charged with.
That was the claim. But again, both the trial court and the appeals court disagreed. They said, no, it didn't fundamentally change the charges or prejudice the jury unfairly, so they upheld the conviction, denied her a new trial on those grounds.
Okay, so the conviction stood despite the appeals. Now, we know a lot came out, but there's always talk about what didn't come out. What key information related to Maxwell or even the broader Epstein case is still under seal or redacted, hidden from public view.
Right, and this is a really persistent point of frustration for many people following this. There's quite a bit that remains sealed. Maxwell's personal financial details, for instance, under a protective order.
Why would that be relevant?
Well, finances can sometimes show connections, payments, influence, but hers were kept private. Also, specific parts of depositions, like from a Dr. Stephen Olson, were filed under seal. And other court documents, like filings in the Dershowitz litigation related to this, are restricted. It creates this sense of an incomplete picture.
A black box of details, yeah. Is there anything similar on Epstein's side, stuff related to him that's still sealed?
Yes, definitely. Looking at the broader Epstein investigation, not just Maxwell's trial, certain things aren't fully public. Parts of police reports involving minors, for example, because juvenile records are typically sealed.
Understandable, to protect the minors.
Exactly. Then there was that whole issue with the missing minute of surveillance footage from Epstein's cell the night he died. The Department of Justice said it was likely just a tech glitch, not foul play, and, importantly,
Yes.
they also stated quite clearly that their investigation found no secret, incriminating client list and no credible evidence that Epstein was actually blackmailing powerful people as part of his crimes.
So the official word is no blackmail evidence, no hidden list, despite the rumors.
That's the DOJ's official stance based on their systematic review, yeah.
Okay, pulling this all together then, how does Maxwell's trial, her conviction, change our understanding of the whole Epstein network? What's the significance?
I mean, it's hugely significant. Her conviction is probably the most concrete proof we have that Epstein absolutely did not act alone. It wasn't just one man's pathology.
It confirms the network idea.
It confirms it and details it. Her role in, as the sources say, orchestrating the abuse, the active recruitment, being present during assaults, it points to a much more organized, structured, and frankly expansive operation.
So it wasn't just Epstein acting impulsively, it was a facilitated system.
Exactly, a system. Her trial laid bare the mechanics of it, how victims were identified, recruited, moved between places like New York, Palm Beach, the Virgin Islands. The testimony, especially Stroberg's, painted this picture of a calculated setup designed specifically to supply girls to Epstein.
And potentially, as Joburg implied, to take the pressure off Maxwell herself.
Right. That detail adds another layer, doesn't it? It reinforces this idea of a far-reaching network requiring active, knowing participation.
It really does. So as we kind of wrap up this part of the deep dive, thinking about Maxwell's conviction, but also all the information that might still be hidden, what does it leave us with?
Well, it leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty big question, I think.
Yeah.
You have this conviction, these chilling details that came out in court, but you also have all this sealed information, this pattern of denials, these claims that it was just poor judgment, not actual criminal conduct.
You're right.
So what does that tell us?
Yeah.
What does it tell us about the system supposedly in place to protect vulnerable people and, maybe just as importantly, how information, the full truth, is sometimes controlled, filtered, and ultimately revealed or not revealed to the public?
That's a heavy thought, and it definitely goes way beyond just this one case. The quest for transparency, for the full story, it clearly continues. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We will be back soon to unpack even more.